I'm an author, I'm a storyteller, and I also teach and practice the martial art of Aikido, which is a martial art for peace. Which is kind of a weird idea, right? A martial art for peace. So like, I'm going to beat you up for peace. But that's not really how it works. And today I'm doing a program called The Art of Peace. And the art of peace is about creating peace. I'm going to tell you guys some stories. We're going to do some demonstrations about creating peace, about the power of peace, about peace in action, about resolving conflicts, and about being creative about ways to solve problems. So that's a lot of stuff to do in a very short period of time, right? Okay, when I say like right, you guys can say right. Well, let's try it again. That's a lot of stuff to do in a really short period of time, right? Excellent. So let me start off by telling you a story. It was December 1st, 1955. It was a warm day in Montgomery, Alabama, and she was tired. She'd been working hard. She worked as a seamstress in a department store, and it was the Christmas season, and she was busy. She had to take out hems and let down pants. And sometimes she walked home. Sometimes she took the bus. And today she decided she was going to take the bus. So she walked to the bus stop, and she waited at the bus stop, and the bus came. She got on, and she paid her fare, and she walked 7 rows back and sat down. And the bus took off. And as the bus rode through the streets of Montgomery, Alabama, it began to fill up. And the front of the bus was getting full. And the front of the bus was completely full, and some more white people came on the bus. And the bus driver looked up and he said, "All right, all you black folk in the 7th row, get up and move to the back of the bus." And the 2 men on either side of her, they stood up and they moved to the back of the bus, but she sat there. She just sat there and she shook her head, "No." "Ma'am, would you please get up and move to the back of the bus?" "No," she said. "I paid my fare. I'm not going." "Ma'am, the law says that you need to move to the back of the bus." She said, "No, I paid my fare. I am not moving." "Ma'am, if you don't move to the back of the bus, I'm going to have to pull over here, and we're going to have to call the police, and they're going to come and they're going to arrest you." She said, "You do what you need to do." So the bus driver pulled over. He called the police. The police came and they arrested her, and they took her down to the station. And they said, "What is your name?" She said, "My name is Mrs. Rosa Parks." You guys might have heard of her. Ms. Rosa Parks, she worked for an organization called the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. And they had been looking for a test case, something to test the law, and see if they could fix the problems in this country. And they decided that her case was going to be a test case. They were going to take it as far as they could. Now, that was going to take a long time, and in the meantime, they decided they needed to get some attention. So they decided they were going to organize a one-day bus boycott. For one day, all of the black folk in Montgomery, Alabama were not going to ride the bus. And they called a meeting, and they ran the mimeograph machines all night, and they passed out thousands of leaflets. And on the morning of the meeting, 2 men were driving in a car. One of them's name was Mr. Ralph Abernathy, and the other was Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King, Jr. And they were going to Dr. King's church. And as they got close to the church, they said they heard a buzzing in the air. It sounded like the locusts were back, but it was the wrong season for that. When they got close, they found that the church was full. The streets were full. They had to park and walk through the people. They had to bring speakers outside so everyone could hear. And they declared a one-day bus boycott. But they didn't know if it was going to work. They didn't know if the people could do it. The next morning, Dr. King was lying in bed, and his wife said, Martin, come quick." He ran to the window and he looked out, and every single bus that drove by was empty. Now, they expected the bus company to capitulate. They expected them to give in, but the bus company refused. So they extended the boycott day after day. Now, the black folk in Montgomery, Alabama, they still had to go to work, and it was not easy. They had to walk. They had to they had to take the taxi. The taxis lowered their fares to bus fare, but the people said it was illegal. They organized carpools, But the police would use every excuse to pull them over. There's too many people in your car. Your registration is expired. Oh, look, your side mirror is broken. They did everything they could to break that boycott, but day after day, month after month it went on. Some of the white folk in Montgomery, Alabama joined in, and they began to help out. They would come into the black neighborhoods and drive people around and take them to and from work. The boycott lasted for 11 months until the Supreme Court of the United States of America handed down a ruling that declared that segregation, the lawful separation of black and white people, was illegal and unconstitutional. And the next day, the people of Montgomery, Alabama got back on the bus, black and white, and they could sit wherever they wanted. I like to tell this story for a whole bunch of reasons. This is the power of peace. I like to tell this story because Ms. Parks was not famous before this happened. She was a quiet woman. She was not rich. She wasn't a celebrity. And she changed the world. One person changed the entire world. And that's the story of Mrs. Rosa Parks and the power of peace. Thank you.